Hello and welcome to Kirby Summers True Crime Podcast. Today is December 28th, so we're right smack in the middle of the Christmas holiday and the New Year, which is going to be phenomenal for us all. I thought that I would read the excerpt of my memoir, The Billionaire's Woman, which I just uploaded to my Substack. I decided to upload it for everyone to read because some people I've realized who are sort of like not regular followers, but I don't know, someone who just happens to come across perhaps one of my tweets or just one of my videos does not know that I am not only a rape survivor, not only a survivor of human trafficking, but also a survivor of having been a sex slave for 8 years to a member of the elite who is connected to all of these, let's just call them trafficking rings. And so, I wrote my book in 1997. I left the Rickless Person in 1992. It took a very long time for me to be able to muster up the, you know, it's like a psychic energy, it's like I had nothing. There was nothing left of me, literally, after 8 years of that. And before that, I was trafficked. And before that, I had been raped. And before that, I had a really horrific childhood with a mother who beat me on a regular basis and a stepfather who was a pedophile. And I haven't really talked much about that aspect of my life. But being a pretty girl, and some would say that I was beautiful, and I'm not going to argue with that. That's a very nice compliment. But to present day, my looks have been not a good thing for me. Some people uh, want and aspire to be very good looking or attractive. For me, I used to have to dress down, um, really, just do anything I could to keep prying eyes off of me. I live in New York City, and walking around was a nightmare. I couldn't get from one side of the sidewalk to the other, literally, without being accosted. Many times. It was not a good experience for me. In fact, one of my followers who did read my memoir, The Billionaire's Woman, said to me, I understand why you wrote in your book that you enjoyed rainy days because you were able to, hide under your umbrella and get around the city and not be bothered, and why you might be comfortable during COVID because you can wear a mask. And I was like, oh my God, you're 100% right. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Because to present day, my looks have not changed much. I kind of I didn't have any children, and so I exercise regularly. I eat well. I've never been overweight. I look good. And so I just recently had to tell a friend of over 30 years to stop complimenting me. And I don't want this to sound self-serving, but I told him the fact that I'm beautiful, even now, or pretty, or whatever you want to keep telling me that I am, is not a reflection of who I am. You have to at some point uh, get over my physical stuff and get to know me. And so in my book, The Billionaire's Woman, I don't really talk about looks per se, but I do talk about my experience And I also look at it from a sort of a political angle because my abuser was connected and is connected to the government. And I am working still on the sequel, which is Cinderella Doesn't Live Here Anymore, because I discovered after I um, found the courage to leave, and I had to leave penniless. You know, when I left, I had less than $100 to my name. So literally, I had to start all over again with less self-esteem. And and this time I would be followed everywhere I went for, to present day. Everything I do is monitored for someone else. But I had to start from nothing, which was okay because, there's always a way to be able to earn your living so that you can do. It took a very long time for me to find my voice. And by that, I don't mean my writing voice. I mean just my normal voice. I didn't know how to talk to another person, for example, because I thought they could see right through me and know the shame, the enormous shame I carried for having been someone else's sex toy for such a long time and for the life that I led, which was nowhere near normal. So, that said, I will read you the excerpt. It's chapter one of The Billionaire's Woman. Once in, never out, the Johnny Carson look-alike with a cigarette the size of a small brown stump dangling on his lip, looking like it was about to pop out and hit me in the eye, is giving me the once and the twice over. I am now officially merchandise, and it doesn't feel good at all. I try not to fidget as I stand in what looks like someone's apartment in a living room where the furniture is still new and unused, except this isn't anyone's home. It's a bordello on Fifth Avenue in New York City, and it's similar to the hundreds of other make-believe apartments neatly tucked away across Manhattan, where women sell themselves to businessmen every day from 9 to 5, and where neighbors never suspect anything of this sort is happening. My heart is going thumpity thump thump. It's almost lodged in my throat. My palms are clammy, and I wonder if I'm going to make it through the interview. I tentatively lift my eyes up from where they're glued to his brown penny loafers and dare look at him. He's wearing a preppy sweater vest under a white shirt with khaki pants. Geez, who knew pimps look like someone's dad? I was raped, lost my job as an administrative assistant, and my floundering new business as a fashion designer was suddenly in the toilet. So much for going it on your own. I am standing here in 4-inch stilettos with a short pink dress I wore to a friend's wedding. My belly is only slightly swollen and doesn't betray my missed period and confirmed pregnancy. When I asked my ex-boyfriend for help by explaining I'd been raped, he didn't believe me. After living with him for 5 years, I'd left him only a couple of months before renting a one-bedroom apartment about 10 blocks away from our place. He was still upset that I'd left, and even more upset that his little girl, as he liked referring to me, had sex with another man. And so he wasn't listening or caring or just wanted revenge when I tried to explain how it happened. My movie date wrestled my keys away from me as I tried opening the front door to the building I just moved into, shoved me into the elevator like I was his prisoner, and once it stopped on my floor, he ushered me out, demanding I tell him which one of the many keys to use, threatening to slice my face. Once inside, he dragged me by the hair and pushed me up against the wall. I tried to fight him off, but with one fist he knocked me off my feet and onto the floor. My head bounced off the wall, and suddenly the thought that I might die rushed into my mind. Before I could scream, he was on top of me and I couldn't breathe. I read somewhere that if you do nothing, don't fight back, you won't die. My mind was racing with 100 thoughts, and all of them were about surviving this moment. And so I didn't fight back. And in I don't know how many minutes, it was over. I felt powerless as I lay there, half dressed, broken, and in pain. I glanced at his face, which was void of expression, except for a sinister smirk, and watched as he pulled up his pants, which he hadn't taken off, buckled his belt, and left. The term date rape had yet to be invented in the world of mergers and acquisitions, fast money, and neon light Studio 54 of the 1980s New York. What kind of girl gets raped unless I really wanted it? That had been my ex's take, and there was no way he was going to help me with the $200 I needed to get an abortion. As uncomfortable as it felt to stand in front of Johnny Carson's stubble, it's even more frightening to think about having the baby. Would I be just like my mother? No way was I going to risk that. His words began to bounce back and forth in my mind. Once in, never out, once in, never out, once in, never out. Not for me, I chanted quietly. Not for me, not for me. I'll get out, not for me. How old are you anyway? I don't sell kids. Old enough, I retorted in an out of body, kind of half hallucinatory state. This could not really be happening to me. I was practically a virgin. I knew the names and the dates of the guys I had slept with. I could count them on one hand. I mentally renamed myself the Virgin Whore. Take your clothes off. Let me see what you look like. Warren's face and voice. His voice was huskier now. I didn't like how this was going at all. My eyes immediately darted to my older sister's face, and sensing my fear, she flashed him a cold look, shaking her head. It felt protective, and I was grateful. In that moment, I forgot I had gone to her to borrow the $200 my ex had denied me. Instead, she talked me into coming here so I could, in her words, earn the money. Getting raped, finding out I was pregnant, and then discovering my older sister knew people like this was more than I could handle. I didn't understand the betrayal until many years later because for maybe 20 years I was in a state of shock. I'll never really know why she decided to sell me to a pimp, and in all the many years since, I've never asked her. Perhaps it was her way of getting even with the infant my mother saddled her with when she was only just 14 years old. Or maybe it's because bad blood that has existed between my mother and myself had been passed on to her. We're like thick black tar. It's sealed off every pore of my skin. I am painfully reminded of being alone in the world as I hear the Johnny Carson look-alike speak and feel his eyes on me. I would spend the rest of my life trying to cleanse myself of the stain her actions and this moment placed on my body and on my soul. It was the beginning of a long, dark, and hellish journey, and if I could slip back into time, I would march right back to that day, to that moment, and bolt for the door, leaving them in their make-believe world of sex for pay in a fake apartment. I am lulled back by his insisting tone. You have a beautiful sister, Gigi. Why deny me the pleasure of seeing the goods? Whatever small part of me which held out hope that someone, anyone, my ex-boyfriend, my mother, my sisters, a stranger on a white horse, would somehow rescue me, have faded. Okay, well, that is the excerpt. And because it's a little emotional for me. I will say thank you for listening. Please like the video, subscribe, and I hope you guys have a really good day. Thank you for listening. Bye.